This conference will now be recorded.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Town of Southbridge April 24th, 2021 Special Board of Health meeting pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Southbridge Board of Health will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southbridge website at www.ci.southbridge.ma. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner as usual via cable access, TV, Charter Spectrum Channel 192. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Southbridge website an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive records of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. All right, it is 9:02. Open the meeting. Roll call.
Beth Stevens.
Present.
Roland LaRochelle.
Present.
Anthony Pastali. Nicole Duffy.
Here. So before we get started, I just want to ask anyone who is on that is not speaking if they could please mute until such a time that they would be speaking, just because we get a lot of feedback sometimes on the online meetings. Okay. Agenda item number 3, determine habitability of 320 Main Street, first floor rear. Andy, I'll turn it over to you. Oh, Roland, yes.
Madam Chair, just for procedure, we have everybody listed except caller 1 is not identified for the record, please.
Thanks, Roland. Caller 1, can you identify yourself, please, for the record? Caller 1.
Hi, this is Jason Dubois from DC Engineering. I'm not sure if I'm caller 1 or not.
Yes, that would be you.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm here for the next agenda item.
Okay, we just for the record, we just needed to know who it was. Thank you.
And Miss Beth, could we also get Michelle D's last name?
Michelle D, if you could please unmute and let us, or tell us your last name for the record. Michelle. So there's someone on here named that's come up as Michelle D. If you could please tell us your last name for the record. Okay. Well, Andy, I guess we don't get that one.
All right, thank you.
All right, agenda item. So we'll move on. Go ahead, Andy.
Okay, we're opening the hearing at 9:04.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I was distracted. Yes.
Okay. This is a case that actually starts in another building. On December 30th, Miss Sarah Landry, the court ordered that Miss Sarah Landry be relocated from 718 Main Street, which is a building that we had previously declared unfit for human habitation, to 320, which the town has listed as 318 Main, the 320 Main Street in the basement apartment. There's a white paper on the door called Unit 6. It's just a white paper, so I did not declare it as Unit 6. I put it as first floor rear. Upon a request by Miss Sarah, I did an inspection of the property and determined that there were violations of the sanitary code. Critical violations being no heat in the apartment or in the room she's living in. She's renting a room. No second means of egress. There was some smoke detector concerns. And there was no window in the unit that she was living in. Subsequent inspections, the smokes were restored. A second means of egress was installed by opening the divider door between the apartment and the front commercial space and allowing them to use the front commercial space as a second means of egress. And also there was heat in the front commercial space, so by keeping that.
Andy, just hold on for 1 second. Can everybody besides Andy please mute because there's too much feedback we cannot hear. Thank you.
So some of the violations had been fixed. The heat was improved by opening the door between the commercial space and the apartment, but the apartment still had no heat of its own. And being rented individually by the room, the tenants don't really have the option to leave their doors open to get heat in there. There has been supplemental heat-based heaters, but a central heating source or a permanent heating source was not installed. Since then, we did several other inspections. No further improvements were noted. However, in a April inspection, Miss Emily and I went in. We noted that the commercial space had been closed off, so the second means of egress was no longer available. The windows still had not been put in, heat had not been restored, and at that inspection, we also noted one other room. We weren't aware of it previously, but one other room did not have a window, and we noted that the front door was a 2-key locking device, something that had, the main door was a 2-key locking device. It is an entrapment issue unless a key stays in the lock on the inside. So that locking device should be changed to a throw bolt type of lock. So as of yesterday, I went back there yesterday, that main door is unlocked, so the entrapment issue is not necessarily the issue anymore. However, a security issue does become the issue because the main door has become unlocked. So that is the situation as we have now. There are 3 occupants of this unit, or 3 individual renters in this unit. I believe a young couple, Miss Sarah, and one other individual.
Okay. So none of the other conditions have changed.
None of the other conditions have changed other than the ones I mentioned.
Okay. I think we have Mr. Foote on the call here. Hunter, do you wish to? I'm not even sure where to go from here right now because I just feel like this is deja vu over again. So I'm not even gonna do you have anything that you would like to say? Mr. Foote, you can have the floor.
Yeah, I'd like some clarity exactly. There are a number of so-called perhaps rear units. This is the unit in the main building immediately adjacent to, on the first floor, immediately adjacent to that walkway. There is a more rear unit that is not the subject of this. I just want to be clear exactly on what unit is being discussed. The description that Andy gave seems accurate in terms of this unit. I would just like some clarity on the record as to what unit exactly this is that is being discussed.
So let me,
if I may. The unit being discussed is the glass door closest to where you keep your dumpster. Walk straight in. You have a number 6 on a white scrap paper. So I assume you would refer to it as unit number 6. I believe it's the only unit that has a direct link to the commercial space fronting the building.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, as long as it's on the record that that is the unit, that is okay.
Well, let me just ask you this real quick. How many rooms do you have rented to people that don't have second egresses? So how about we just go there? Roland, go ahead.
There is a second.
Hand up.
My question, Andy, you mentioned that the locks and the door was unlocked. Is that still double keyed in and out?
Yes, there's two doors to get through to this apartment. The outside door, which will bring you to an entryway, will bring you to a couple of stairs up to their apartment door. The outside door is a 2-key type of lock. And as of yesterday, it was unlocked. I walked right into that one. And the inner door is, the apartment door has a approved lock on it.
Okay, so to solve any problems for record, the egress from the building can be secured by a key, either outside or inside, which traps the residents in the building. So I think the apartments in contention here are any room or other space that is being occupied, leased, rented, given a place for somebody to rest their head on a pillow, because if somebody locks that door with a key and there's a fire in the building, they're dead. So I think those occupancies are the ones that we're talking about. Any place of habitation, which having a double keyed lock any more than a single family, and I'm not sure about a single family, is called a prison. So I believe that is what we're talking about.
Okay, yeah, that's understood. The other unit in the back has a different door. It's a regular door with a key entry and deadbolt. But that's separate entirely. I just didn't want there to be any confusion.
Miss Beth, can I ask one question of Hunter?
All right. ahead.
Mr. Hunter, I walk into that apartment and I walk into that landing area. I walk straight ahead and up the stairs and there are two doors. One straight ahead goes into the apartment we're discussing. What is the one to the right? Is that another living unit?
That is another living unit, but replacing the lock. What's that?
And is this means of egress that Roland is referring to, the one with the two keys, one of the required means of egress for that apartment?
This is one of them, but we can head over there and make it so it's not lockable with from the ends.
Thank you.
Okay, so are we clear now where the location is exactly and what units we're talking about?
The subject of this hearing was one particular unit that was referenced by the hearing notice. I wasn't prepared to discuss any other units. We haven't been cited on any other units. No inspection has been made relative to any other unit. So I don't think it would be appropriate to conduct a hearing this morning on any other units.
Andy?
I was not aware that there was another unit off of this one. I believe Hunter Foot is right. We would have to make it very clear to him and also notify the tenants of that other unit. The one in question right now is the one that we know there's violations in. I do not think that we are out of line to order him to replace that lock immediately so that the other unit is not affected anymore. But, or if the board deems the law allows that we can declare it, if it's such an emergency, we can declare it without a hearing. So it might be better to include it in this rather than to have it included without. But if this board deems that it's of such emergency that it should be declared without a hearing, we can do that.
So I just want to know why there is still not a second egress in this room. This girl has been living there since December. That's my question. It is now the end of April. She's been there for 4 months and there is still not a dang window in there. Why has this not happened? That's all I want to know. Because to me, that's enough. That's enough to declare it. Roland, go ahead.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm not going to deal on splitting hairs. I'm not going to deal on this what if, and I'm not prepared. I put my reputation out the last piece of property. We gave 2 weeks. We put the olive branch out. It was thrown in at our feet. On the April 12th inspection, it states, on January 28th, the inspection of the dwelling unit at 320 Main Street, first floor rear. That's all it states. But observations, the rear egress door, internal lock key. That is the egress door, regardless of what occupancy. This is people in that building unable to get out. Second means of egress has been blockaded. I'm tired of worrying about, we are sitting here as a Board of Health for life safety. I don't care if it was occupancy unit, first floor right, occupancy unit, first floor left. Smoke detectors is for the whole building. CO detectors are for the whole building. Double key lock is for everybody who lives in that building, not the occupancy unit. We're talking about the second means of egress from that occupancy unit. From what the chair said, that we've been dealing with this since you were ordered by the courts to move her from 718 Main Street to 320 Main Street, first floor. That is the Commonwealth Trial Court document. Okay? It does not say what number, it does not say anything else. Let's not split hairs, Mr. Foote. These people have been living in a dangerous situation. I'm sure you've been collecting rent for these dangerous situations, which I am not an attorney, so please feel free to bring one. But I believe that's fraud on your part of collecting rent on a not suitable piece of property. We're not going to split hairs here. This has been ongoing issues with safety of the tenants of that piece of property, regardless of what apartment level or anything else. I am fully willing to go on this hearing. And Madam Chair, you can stop it and call for a vote anytime you want, because I am fully prepared to vote at this time. Thank you.
I agree with Roland.
I would just like to address Mr. Foote. Mr. Foote, can you please answer the question that Ms. Beth had asked about why all this time there has not been a window put in? I'm just curious.
Certainly. If I could respond first to the comment about rent, we haven't gotten rent from anyone in that unit at all. In response to Beth's question, we offered her immediately after the first inspection that Mr. Pelletier completed, we offered her an alternate living arrangement, which she accepted. And then she failed to move. And the comment was, I'd rather stay here and basically I'd rather sue you. And I said, fine, sue me. You can get a judgment like 4 or 5 other people have behind a mortgage on a building that's in default because nobody's paying rent. And basically responded by saying that she'll just sue me and continue to live somewhere instead of moving somewhere that I offered her that was okay. We could, despite a couple of times we sent maintenance over there. There's access issues. People have alleged that they've had COVID, and she just hasn't moved. She agreed to move. I believe Mr. Pelletier spoke with her and they had a conversation or something like that. But I know I talked with her and she had agreed to move to a house on Village Street in Dudley, Massachusetts. Then I guess somebody told her she could sue me if she continued to stay in a unit that is declared unfit or that is unfit. I've not collected a dime from her in rent, and it's probably a year now, or close to it.
Well, she hasn't been there for a year, but
correct. She lived in a previous building and also didn't pay rent for probably 6 months. At that
also a previous building that was declared uninhabitable, might I add.
Yeah. And since then, Andy has performed an inspection. Every single item on every single inspection list has been completed. The property is now occupied.
I don't care about 718 Main Street. That's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss this property now that you have again failed to do the things you're supposed to do. I'm not interested in that property. Roland, you had something?
Yes, in the invitation to appear, it says in February 2021, Hunter Foot did inform me that Mr. Sarah Landry was being relocated to a dwelling owned by him in Dudley, Mass. So therefore, Mr. Foot said he was going to relocate her, and now he's saying that she didn't want to go. So I think it would be in the best interest of this board and everybody involved to assist Mr. Foot in the relocation of the people. We got to declare this place uninhabitable. This excuse of they didn't want to move is a moot point. It's dangerous. I'm tired of hearing about it. I'm not going to waste my own Saturday on this back and forth. I'm done. I'm done. Write it up. This has been going on since 2020. And rent, no rent. It is a responsibility. It is ethic. It is professionalism. It is any other kind of word that you want to look in the dictionary. Close it up. Get them out. Fix it. Sell it. Get rid of it. I don't care. I am done with it.
Just a question, Andy, is there any truth to what Mr. Foot had said as far as, did you speak to the tenant and what if she had agreed to move? I'm just curious. Not that it really bears much weight. I'm just curious.
Mr. Foot in late January, early February informed me, I believe, that she had moved or that he was moving her. I subsequently found out at this most recent inspection that she hadn't moved, and she informed me that she was offered space in Dudley, but that it wasn't to her convenience to take it.
All right, thank you, Andy. Mr. Foot, I still haven't gotten my question answered, however. Even aside from that, why wasn't the window replaced? Even if she were to move, I would think that you would plan on having someone else in there. So I'm just curious why that wasn't done.
Our hope was that the building, or this area of the building, would be empty while we performed work due to safety concerns and convenience concerns for the people that we hire to do the work for us. They didn't want to get COVID, and they don't want to get assaulted by whatever unknown male was in the unit that somebody said appeared to be. It's very difficult to do such things. She agreed to move. We were hoping that she would move and we would put in the window. We're fine leaving the unit vacant upon somebody moving out. If this board does declare it unfit for habitation, it would greatly assist the vacating of the unit so we can get in there and do work. And then upon completion of the work, would love to invite Mr. Pelletier or any of you guys through and inspect prior to any future occupancy of the dwelling unit.
I just don't understand. If you were planning on doing work to this part of the building anyway, why did you even put anyone in there? Because now you're back in the same situation you were before, Crimea River. Oh, they won't leave. They won't give us access. They claim they have COVID, all this other stuff. Cut the crap. It's just, it boggles my mind. You take somebody and you put them from one dump into another dump, and you refuse to do your job as a landlord and an owner, which is to upkeep your properties. Like, this is a joke. I'm done with it. And it pains me that if we declare this, we're actually helping you, because you should be able to take care of the tenants that you put in your buildings and take care of your buildings that meet the codes for this town. So I don't care, whatever you guys want to do. Somebody want to make a motion, we can just get this over with, because I have other things that I would rather be doing this beautiful day besides sitting here arguing the same crap that we argue all the time with Hunter Foot. It's a joke. Andy, go ahead.
I just want to suggest, I know Rolly wants to keep these together and move it as one. I'm sorry, Mr. LaRochelle wants to keep these together and move it as one action. However, Hunter Foot did raise a point that we didn't notify him of the other apartment, and please let me finish. The housing code allows that if this board thinks that double keyed lock is a scary enough threat or a threat to human health and safety, let me just read, exceptions to notification and hearing. If at any time the Board of Health determines in writing that the danger to life or health of the occupants is so immediate that no delay may be permitted, then the Board of Health may immediately issue a finding. So we have notification on the apartment in question. I would propose we move forward on that one, get a vote on that one, and then the board as a whole make a vote to determine if that double key lock makes the other one also unsafe of immediate. And therefore, we avoid the liability of not notifying the tenant of the other apartment and notifying Mr. Foote that we're going to include the other apartment. And I think the law makes it legit that we can do it that way.
Roland, go ahead.
Mr. Pelletier,
Yes,
besides the dual key, there was a citation of no smokes and no carbon monoxide detectors. Is that still the process? Is that still a problem?
not in the apartment I inspected.
What
about-
about the rest of
I've never been in the other apartment.
No, I'm not talking about apartments. I'm talking
the
the building.
unit, the
Common
building?
hallways, common egresses, are there CO, are there smoke detectors? Has that been issued a boarding house? Because if I'm not mistaken, they need a type 1 or type 2 fire alarm system. If that is not up to par, that along with the dual key is a hazard to any residential unit. Therefore, in my opinion, one vote from this board to close the building in one vote for all residential units. And if the building is closed, then that is going to subject to what you put in writing, that when the building is closed and vacated, it cannot be reoccupied until an inspection. Then at that point, maybe we can finally get something done unit by unit. And please include pictures so that there isn't confusion if this is top of the stairs right, top of the stairs left in the future. But just a double key, if you've got a fossil fuel furnace or any kind of system in the building, you need CO, you need smoke detectors, and those are impacting every single dwelling unit. I don't care what it is.
The
So
unit,
I think for what you're saying, Andy, and I agree, but those are things that are affecting every unit. If we vote on that, and then that makes the building vacant, take one piece at a time before it's allowed to be reoccupied.
the entrance to this particular apartment is really just a landing. I would have to check and see if smokes are required in the landing area outside the apartment. The rest of the apartments in this building, other than the other rear apartment, but the rest of the apartments in the building are from a totally different entrance. They do have heats in the common areas, and the only apartment I've been in there is second floor right, and the that one I worked with Hunter, and we got that one back into compliance. Smokes, everything are in compliance. So it's literally two separate entrances. You can't get from one of them to the other one. You can't get
But
from
it
this apartment to the other
doesn't
apartment.
matter. In my past profession, number one, in dwelling units, common areas, unless they are outside porches on a 3-decker,
Yep.
which has been adopted, and I'm not sure, I believe it's 26. It has not been adopted to put heat detectors in open 3-decker porches because of the rating of the temperature. But inside common areas, all common areas shall be interconnected smoke detectors, not heat. Heat detectors in residential units are an extra. They are not an early warning system. But that being separate, getting out of that building with a double key lock is good enough for me to close the damn building down. This has been going on long enough.
Okay.
Speak to
Again,
that.
to reiterate, the double key lock only affects the two apartments in question. There is no access from the upper apartments through this double key lock. So we would be talking about unit 6 and this newly discovered unit to the right.
Okay.
Could I speak to the proposition of closing the entire building? Mr. Pelletier, who is your agent, has performed numerous inspections at that building, and apart from this unit, most recently that inspection was in Unit 4 at the top of the second stairs to the right, where he went through and found that the unit was habitable. Nothing has changed in that unit. So for this board to now make a determination that that particular unit is not habitable after maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago being determined to be habitable when nothing has changed, I think is preposterous. In this double lock, it is not locked, I don't think ever, at least not for the last couple of months since people moved in. We can have it removed by 11 o'clock this morning and have it so it is not locked at all.
Andy, when you went there, was it locked?
This morning, it was not locked.
No, when you went on your inspection, was it locked?
It was. Miss Sarah had to come and let me in. I had to
Okay,
call her in.
so you know what? I'm done. We've been talking about this for half an hour now. You're wasting my time. I'm done. I don't care if you can go and fix it right now. You should have fixed it last week before we even got here. This is what you do every time. You wait until you get to a hearing and then you want to pull this crap with us. I'm done. I'm done with the whole thing.
With all due respect, it has been unlocked and no tenant has a key to it in order to lock it. It is unlocked. It is unable to be locked unless one has a key. And the only person that has a key is Evan Rivera, our maintenance person, and he was instructed not to lock it. So it is incapable of being locked other than if Edwin locks it, which is the same as if somebody boarded up the door. Yeah, you could trap tenants in if you boarded up the door, but it's not a flip of a switch. It's unable to be locked.
Upon inspection, it was locked. Does
Upon most recent
do those units have second egresses, both of these units?
Yes, they do.
How?
They have a second egress, Andy? Did they have a window?
This
I don't think
The
sleeping
window is an escape. When I went there and cited no second egress, he did make one available through the commercial space. I have subsequently been there and the second egress was locked. There is no escape, there is no natural ventilation, and there is no natural lighting by means of missing a window.
All right. So I'm done arguing with this. I'm done discussing it. I just, this is crazy and it's ludicrous. You have been offered opportunity after opportunity, and not even from me, but from the fellow members of my board who have tried to work with you, because I will not. And you have still spit in their face. It's ridiculous. We shouldn't have to be here doing this time and time again to get you to do the right thing. It's, as you would say, preposterous. So I'm done. Roland, Andy, Nicole, I mean, if you guys have anything to add, I'm ready to vote, because I'm not waiting.
I would like to move the question, and the unfortunate thing that I have to ponder is exactly the way Agenda 3 is written. So with the other things that we discussed, Andy, if you can get together with the fire department and do an inspection of that entire dwelling unit to make sure it's up to fire code, smoke detectors, heat detectors, and any other thing for the entire building. But because of agenda number 3, determine the habitability of first floor rear, because of what I've heard and everything like this, I make a motion that we determine it is not habitable for living conditions due to everything that we've been given for the past months. And I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, vote. Do we have it?
You got my vote.
Let's try unmuting.
We
All
have to
right,
have a roll
we have
call.
a motion by Roland LaRochelle to declare the rear apartment that we have confirmed is what Hunter is calling Unit 6 as unfit for human habitation. Tony has seconded. Beth Stevens,
Yes.
Roland LaRochelle,
Yes,
Anthony Postali. Anthony,
Yes, sorry.
Nicole Duffy,
Yes.
okay, it's a vote. I will get that order out. Hunter, I will ask that you be available for us to do a inspection of the entire building for smokes and carbon monoxides. I will be contacting you Monday for that. All right, that is the apartment in question. As I said, if the board wants to take action on the other apartment that uses that rear door, you can determine, if the board wants to, they can determine that that lock is sufficient enough to offer imminent threat to health and safety, and they can include the rear, in a separate vote, they can include the other rear apartment as also unfit. 831D, exceptions to notification, allows it. But the only thing we can do it on, I think, is the locks. I've never been in the other apartment, and I can honestly tell you, I never noted if there is a working alarm in the ceiling in that landing area.
my only problem with that, I understand that, but the agenda item, I would not have a problem. 2 questions, Andy. With
Yep.
this vote that we just took,
Yep.
how long before that apartment is required to be vacated? 24 hours, immediately? How does that?
The board
In my
code
second,
only states that it requires the owner or occupant to vacate, to put the premises in a clean condition, or to comply with the regulations. So once you declare it unfit, you can set a time to get out. You can set a time to get it cleaned. You can, if the declaration is on that it's unfit, you can now declare it has to be corrected in this much time, or you have to be vacant in this much time. It doesn't say it's an imminent move.
my only concern is the way the agenda is written.
Yep.
As far as the rest of it, with the double key and everything like this, of the lip service we would be getting, I would like a total inspection of that building with the fire inspector, your building inspector, and if you can get a hold of your plumbing and your electrician to make sure that all other occupancies are protected. And I don't really care if it's up to the chair, but if we have to have another special meeting to close up the entire building until such time that an inspection shows that I have a real big problem with a double key lock. I have a real big problem with that. But I am really concerned about the way the agenda is written. A double key lock to exit a building on a multiple family. I don't even know if this thing has gone through the planning board to be used from a commercial piece of property in that commercial thing, which used to be Goodwin's clothing store, and now put rooming house. I don't even know if that's gone through the planning board. I don't know if it's even been permitted for that. That is bigger pictures. If it hasn't, there shouldn't be anybody in that building but commercial space. The agenda refers to the first floor rear at 318/320. I'm torn on the rest of it. I would love to board up the whole damn place until it all brought up to code. The other thing I know is that if the majority of the building is under construction, and I think it's 60% of the value or 60% of the full square footage, that the entire property has to be brought up to the present code. I am not satisfied with people have to leave their door open when they're renting a room to get heat and light. That is unsatisfactory. That is a safety issue. It's a terrible thing, but I am torn the way the agenda is written. And again, like Beth says, we've been going on 40 minutes and we've been circling the wagons again. just like we do every time with these properties. And we got to start this point, and I would amend the motion or make another motion that that tenant is to be removed from that building within 24 hours, to be relocated in a suitable place, whether she wants to or not. But back in February, let me double check, because I don't want anybody to split hairs. Back in February of 2021, Mr. Foote said he had a spot in Dudley. I don't care if it's Dudley. I don't care where it is. I want it a safe place, a habitable place. Get her out of there within 24 hours, and then the process can begin. And that means permits, inspections, and an entire overview of that building. And I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Hold on, Roland, before you do that.
Go ahead.
I too am concerned about that double lock. And I know Mr. Foote says no one has the keys, but when Andy went to inspect it, it was locked. So it's irrelevant to me how it gets locked or it's unlocked. Nobody has keys, somebody has keys. Accidents happen, mistakes are made, that door gets locked. So I do think we're within our rights to address that other apartment because of that lock. But I heard Hunter say, Mr. Foote say, he could be down there today to deal with that lock. So I would like to address that second apartment with conditions, if the board deems fit.
Nicole, did you want to add something?
I was just going to say, I agree with the lock. The lock in itself, it's accidents happen, and I mean, that could easily happen. Their maintenance guy could accidentally lock it, and that'll be enough. I mean, as Andy had gone on the previous inspection, the door was locked. So it has in fact happened, and it can happen.
Tony,
For point of
what
clarification, if I
are
it
you,
was the second previous inspection. The most recent inspection, he noticed that it was not locked.
Point
So
of
it was,
But it
Point of order.
It
It's
was
that it
locked.
can be locked accidentally. The possibility of it is enough.
Can I speak at all?
Madam Chair,
hold on, yes, Roland, what?
regardless of whether the doors should be locked, unlocked, capable of being locked or unlocked, the door, in my opinion, should be locked so that vagrants don't go in and anything happens to tenants. The problem I have is the double key. So in case of emergency, the tenants turn a knob and get out. Having a double key is illegal, and it's a major safety issue. And I would like to retract my motion about the other apartment. I agree with Tony. Right now, I would like to see that if that lock is updated to the proper lock, and that will only be determined by Andy and the other inspections on Monday morning. In the meantime, I'm done with the lip service, and I will amend my motion that occupancies that are behind the double key means of egress be vacated within 24 hours. Preferably immediately, because accidents can happen in the next 10 minutes.
All right, Roland, I think, Sarah, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, hi. I was just gonna say, you're saying to me, leaving within 24 hours. Well, I don't have anywhere to go, and I was told that the place in Dudley is also having issues, where it may not be considered habitable as well. And also, I travel 40 minutes to go to work, and moving to Dudley is going to add another 20 minutes, so it's going to take me an hour to go to work if I move out there.
My comment was not to move specifically to Dudley, but it's to move to a safe environment. There are motels that are open, because if your landlord is going to be true to his word, and we'll see when this happens, and the repairs are made, you can go back. Once it's there are local motels, there are local hotels, there are local safe havens You do not have to, in my opinion, go to a specific place. My opinion is, and I'm sure the echo of the board, is to go to a safe place.
Okay, is this something that I'm gonna have to pay for out of my own pocket though? And do I leave all my things here and just stay until the apartment is ready, or?
Andy, if you want to address that.
I would propose that we put the order on Mr. Foot to relocate these people at whatever cost it is to do it. If he wants to appeal that, courts want to order or something else,
We
that's
can't
fine.
hear what he's saying, Beth.
Sorry.
I know.
I would propose, can you hear me now?
It's not
a little
you,
bit.
Andy. We need mutes.
There.
I would propose that the board order Hunter Foot to relocate the tenants in the affected apartment at his cost, since it was his situation that caused us the hearing. If he wants to appeal that and recoup that somehow, he can do that through the courts, if the courts want to go that route. But I would say from this level, we order Mr. Foot to relocate the tenants.
Okay, what do you guys want to do?
I'll make the motion that the tenants behind the double key lock be relocated immediately at the landlord's expense until such time that an inspections are done and the facility is deemed habitable.
Is that acceptable to you guys? Do we have a second?
So Roland, when you say the facility, the entire building, or those two back units that we've been discussing?
I think the two affected units.
The two affected units?
I am talking about removal of tenants from the two affected units behind the double key, potentially locked door.
And then we have,
Could
An inspection
I
later
comment prior to vote?
I have the floor. The inspection later will determine information pertaining to any other future things. But I agree with you, Tony, that the hazard that is available to happen for those two affected units by the double key is what we're talking about right now.
Could I comment before a vote is made, please?
Okay,
So Mr. Pelletier responded to so-called unit number 6 on the result of a complaint from Miss Landry. There was not a complaint from so-called unit 7, which is the other unit that is allegedly affected by this.
so I'm going to stop you right there because Mr. Pelletier already addressed this. So you have a double keyed lock that affects both of those units. So we are well within our rights to make a motion and to vote to remove those people as well, because that is an imminent danger. So I'm just going to stop you right there and we're going to move on.
Could I please finish my point? It is relevant and it is new.
It's not,
it is
because we have given you notice about the other unit. This unit is also affected by your negligence. So we are within our rights to do this.
Correct, and I'm not disputing that, but I would like to bring to the board's attention the board's obligation to weigh the cost of the tenants. Now, the tenants in so-called unit 7 have
Mr. Foot, it's a cost to you. So let's just establish that.
The board's obligation is the life and safety of the residents within our community. That is the board's obligation. Your obligation as a landlord is to make sure that your properties are up to code, up to safety, and up to standards. Do not throw this on the board again, sir. You tried that at the last meeting, and I will not stand for it again. Those double locks are a hazard to both apartments, and it is within our right, and you have been given lip service on those locks with inspections since you purchased that building and occupied it. And I am done listening to it, and I make a motion, we move the question to the vote.
Do we have a second?
before we move on that, I struggle with this whole thing. And for me, if I were a landlord and someone said to me, some simple things needed to be replaced for the welfare of my tenants. And this is locks. I'm pushing aside all these other issues. So I just don't understand, Mr. Foot, why you just didn't deal with the locks. You knew they were an issue. It's an easy fix.
I did. They're permanently unlocked and nobody can lock them. There's no mistake that could lock them. Somebody would have to have the physical key for that lock and lock it. It's not like they would just slip and have it locked. They would have to physically go there with a key and lock it with the intention of locking people in the unit. I permanently left it unlocked.
But
It would take 20 minutes for somebody there to fix it right now without having to render multiple people homeless. Because
Well, they're not
I thought I
saying to relocate them, sir.
But does the code say, I'm sorry, Beth, but does the code say it's okay to have these double keys as long as they're unable, nobody has the keys? Or does the code say they're not allowed?
I believe the code says that one cannot have a mechanism that would allow it to be locked from both sides. And I would argue that disabling for it to be locked from both sides does remedy the problem. And if not, this is the first I'm hearing about it, and I can have it fixed by the time this.
It was in the notice. It was in the notice, Hunter. So cut the crap.
Right.
Andy, go ahead.
And we're not here to interpret the code. We're here to uphold it.
Okay, if I can just have the floor for a few minutes. Miss Sarah,
Yes.
in January, I called you from outside the apartment and you came and let me in. Do you indeed have a key to this lock?
Yes, I do.
You do. Okay. Second point I want to make is the code requires security on the outside doors. So leaving the lock unlocked is not an option anyhow. So to Mr. Hunter Foot's point, it's moot that they're leaving it unlocked because I'm going to order them to make it capable of locking legally because they have a right to security. But I am actually going to reach out to the board and request that we're going to look at the situation on Monday. And actually, no, I'll stick with the boards, put the people out within 24 hours. Mr. Foot has the option to put this particular apartment, because I don't have any other violations on this apartment other than the lock. Mr. Foot could conceivably put him up in a hotel for one night while he's repairing the locks. And I can look at it Monday. If that lock is in place, then he is good to go until we do the full inspection. So if he chooses to repair the situation as far as the locks for that one apartment, he could put them out within the 24 hours at a hotel and move them back in once the lock is fixed, once I say, hey, there's a lock here. As far as the first apartment that we discussed, there are bigger issues. There's the windows, there's the heat situation, and there's a second means of egress situation. So I think the board is on real good foot. Actually, the board's on good footing all around. I think the board is righteous to say remove the people in apartment number 6 within 24 hours. I think the board is on good footing to say remove the people in the other one within 24 hours. However, I'm going to do an inspection, and if that lock is fixed, I can give him clearance for that apartment until we get inside that apartment if the tenant wants to let us in.
I believe my second motion was immediately, Andy, because I'm going to tell you something. I am not going to be able to live with myself if I say 24 hours and I've been hearing nothing but excuses after excuses from the landlord. And God help us if there's a fire somewhere in that building and Miss Sarah has to crawl on the floor underneath the smoke because the door is capable of being locked. Try to finagle a key into a key lock, and don't give me any lip service, Mr. Foot, because I've been there experiencing it as a firefighter blind for life and safety. And if that building catches fire and somebody perishes tonight, I don't care about liability, but I will not be able to live with myself. That's why I said immediately. This will include tonight and tomorrow night if Mr. Foot goes to Home Depot and gets a damn lock with a Phillips head screwdriver and gets it changed. 2 nights. But I believe my vote, if you can read it back, Andy, says immediately.
Tony, Nicole, do you have any other comments?
No,
Anything else to add?
no, I agree with Roland, and it's not, and the fact that they have keys.
Exactly.
So then are we okay to move on this then? With Roland's, are you guys in agreement with Roland's motion?
Can you repeat that back, Roland or Andy? What was?
If I believe my motion says that due to the double key lock issue, that the apartments behind the affected areas be vacated immediately.
Are we going to add until such a time that the lock is fixed and reinspection can occur?
Well, they will be removed immediately.
No, okay.
Not allowed
Okay,
to be-
Andy.
Not allowed to be reoccupied until inspection has
Okay.
proved
Okay,
yeah, I can't think of the word. The violation is cleared up. Yes.
Once we declare it unfit, because we are citing specific conditions, we are declaring it unfit. When those conditions are repaired, I will allow it to be occupied again.
okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yes.
And this is something that you can inspect on Monday if the situation is resolved, Andy?
I am going to contact Mr. Foote on Monday. One, to look at the lock situation and see if he can reoccupy that one apartment to the right. And two, per Roland's request, to do a complete inspection of the common areas in the entire building and make sure that the smokes and carbons are up to date.
Okay, so do we have a second for this motion?
I second the motion.
All right, can we have a vote, please?
Am I still on? I'm good. Elizabeth, Beth Stevens,
Yes.
Roland LaRochelle,
Yes.
Anthony Pastali,
Yes.
and Nicole Duffy.
Yes.
All right. So we have a vote. Both apartments are to be vacated forthwith. And I will set up a schedule with Mr. Foote on Monday to get back in there and satisfy the common areas and the conditions that we declared the rear apartments uninhabitable.
Okay,
Mr. Foote, you will contact me first thing Monday morning?
Absolutely. I'll be in touch Monday.
Thank you.
all right, so we'll close this hearing. It's 9:58. And moving on. Agenda item number, oh, I lost it now.
Number 4.
I know, I'm like, I lost my whole agenda. Oh. There we go. Sorry, guys. So what happens when I don't print things out. All right, agenda item number 4, request for local upgrade approvals for 3 Grandview Drive. Andy.
Okay, it is 9:59, opening the hearing. 3 Grandview Drive. Myself, Miss Emily, and Jay Dubois of DC Engineering attempted a perk test on a property at 3 Grandview Drive. The soil analysis determined that the groundwater was, the seasonal high groundwater was 1 foot below the surface of the ground. The board may or may not know that a septic system has to be in its entirety outside of the water table. It has to be above the water table. To accomplish this, we would be making a mountain in the backyard because the whole system would be literally floating above, has to be 4 feet out. So we would be 3 feet above the water table. Above the natural grade in order to put this in. Very tight little piece of property. So I've reviewed the plans, and if we raised it that high out, it would be a significant cost. It would also, the breakout slopes would interfere with property lines and other people's property. So Mr. Dubois, sorry, has requested 3 upgrade approvals. First upgrade approval is a request to do what's called a sieve analysis instead of a perk test. A sieve analysis is allowed on a upgrade, which an upgrade means the house exists already and we're just trying to repair the system. It's not allowed on any new design flow. So he wants to do a sieve. He did the sieve analysis because we were on site and he took it, but he wants a sieve analysis to be accepted by the Board of Health. Under the code, it has to be accepted. And you do a sieve analysis when you cannot do a perk test due to high groundwater. We could not do that perk test that day. The water was seeping out of the ground. If we poured a perk test into a hole, the water would have actually risen rather than gone down. So it was sent to a lab, determined at a 30-minute rate, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong. But first approval would be for that sieve analysis. Second approval, because of the high groundwater table, again, the system would be literally 4 feet out of the ground. The code allows boards of health to give relief for separation from the bottom of a septic field to the high groundwater. The board can relieve it up to 1 foot. 1 foot of fill is going to be a significant economic impact, and also 1 foot of height is again going to be interfere with the neighbor's properties. So I put it before the board for a approval of the of a 1 foot reduction in the separation of the groundwater to the bottom of the system. The third request, we actually, while Jay and I were discussing the plans, we discovered that the piping for the tank cannot possibly, the piping goes into the tank 13 inches below the top of the tank. So if the tank is in the ground and we're 13 inches below the top of the tank, but the groundwater is 12 inches below the top of the tank, then the pipes would have to be literally 1 inch into the groundwater. Code says it has to be 12 inches out. Code says board can relieve that to 1 inch. So we have amended the request for upgrade, and that was just done this week. And we're also requesting, or Jay is requesting, a reduction to no less than 1 inch. He's going to have to do some redesign on the plan, so we don't have the plan confirmed yet, but he's confident that he can get those pipes with a slight mound over the tank. He can get them 1 inch out of the water table. So those are the 3 local upgrade approvals put before the board today. The code allows all of those 3 to be given by the board. So I am encouraging that we do this rather than to go into a tight tank situation or to lose the value of this property or the use of this property.
Okay, Roland.
One question to the engineer. 310 CFR 1500 H3 discussed 2,000 gallons per day, and the plan is, because if it's a small 2-bedroom, it's 220 gallons per day. Does that reduction of the amount of the gallon flow, regardless of what with what the code says, does that really decrease anything substantially? Because it's such a small gallon per day flow of the 2-bedroom versus what the 1500 states, or is it just uniform?
Through the chair, this is Jason Dubois. No, I think the flow rate of the property would not any of those parameters as far as groundwater offsets,
Okay.
and pipe offsets, and also the alternative to the perk test. And Andy,
Right.
you can correct me as well if I'm wrong.
No, I would just, Roland, the 2,000 you're reading, and I don't have the code in front of me, but I believe the 2,000 you're reading says that the board can act on any system that has a flow less than 2,000. This is a 2-bedroom design. A 2-bedroom design is 110 gallons per day per bedroom, so it's 220. So the board is allowed to act on this. If it was over 2,000 gallons, that's when that 2,000 would come into effect. I mean, then the board wouldn't be able to act. The DEP would have to.
All right, thank you for the clarifications.
Nicole or Tony, do you have any questions?
So Andy, when you say they're confident that they can achieve that piping below 1 inch, is that what I heard you say?
Yes, Jay and I have talked about several different options, including raising the plumbing inside the house. If the plumbing comes out of the house low enough, usually it comes out through the foundation wall. He might be able to put it up above the sill and move it out that way and mound the dirt so that it's underground. If that fails, we've also talked about an ejector pump inside so that he can raise it up before sending it out of the house. There's a lot of options that Jay will investigate, but
Okay.
the code does not allow less than the 12 inches. So I mean, less than the 1 inch with Board of Health approval. So he'll make
But
it
it's
work.
good. Right, there's several options. So, all right,
That's why I said he's looking for a reduction to no less than 1 inch, because he might be able to give us 6. He might be able to give us 7, you know?
Okay, thank you.
Andy, do you foresee any likelihood of complications with any of those options for the third regarding that piping?
I do not. Properly designed, and obviously an injector if it's required, or even if they have to change the plumbing inside, it's going to be a licensed plumber. So we're going to get my inspection on it. We're going to get the plumbers, my plumbing inspector's license on inspection on it. And neither one of us are going to let it happen if we don't think it's going to work. Plus, Jay is probably one of the top 5 engineers when it comes to difficulties that I work with. So I'm confident that he'll come up with a solution to this thing. I haven't been in the basement, so I don't know how low that plumbing is. It might be as simple as raising the plumbing.
Okay,
Andy.
thank you.
Andy, did you say that a sieve analysis was already completed?
The sieve analysis has been done. Because we're in the field, he took the sample there.
All right.
And Jay, if I'm right, I believe it's 30 minutes per inch is what, so he's going to design on a 30 minutes per inch design. We take the sample while we're there for convenience. We have it tested, but so in reality, the board is supposed to approve the sieve analysis, but I'm asking you to approve the acceptance of it. It's equivalent.
Well, the only reason I asked is that by this analysis, instead of a perk test, prove that the property will absorb what's needed to absorb for a septic system. The other parts is just put in the puzzle pieces the right way. So with this information and things like that, I would like to move that these 3 Andy, do you want this separately or all in one?
I think it can be in one.
Okay.
That we approve the application was for local upgrade approvals.
Correct.
So I would approve the application.
Okay.
Or the approve
I make a motion to approve the application. And of course, all paperwork and results and approvals come out of the inspections office. But I would, I make a motion that we approve and welcome to the neighborhood.
Do you have a second?
Yep, I'll second.
All right, vote.
Miss Elizabeth Stevens,
Yes.
Roland LaRochelle,
Yes.
Anthony Pastali,
Yes.
Nicole Duffy.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you. All right, so the board has made the approvals. We can move forward with the approvals. There are still going to be some edits to the design, so we're still, Jay can speak better to the time, but we're still not ready to move on this because there's going to be revisions to the design. But all of the Board of Health approvals are done, so he can move forward confidently.
Great.
All right.
Perfect.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We'll close that hearing 10:10. All right, kids. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Oh, yeah, that's it.
We just had a hearing that closed in 10 minutes.
I know.
Yeah, it's because there was other reasons. Don't get me going.
Andy, I mean, Roland, you need a drink.
I'm having even done, still at the clinic. I'm at work. At least as long as we don't have a lightning strike like we did the other day, I'm good.
That was bad.
Oh, God.
I worked over there 2 days this week.
Yeah, that was my other nightmare.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second,
Beth Stevens,
Yes.
Roland LaRochelle,
Absolutely.
Nicole Duffy.
Yes.
I just wanted to see if I could take Tony by surprise. Anthony,
no. I'm only kidding. Yeah,
Sorry, you're outvoted.
You feel free to stay.
you're
All
right.
right.
All right, guys. Enjoy the day, my friends.
Have a good weekend.